Have you ever looked at your bank account and felt that silent question echo inside your mind? Is this all there is? You work, you try, you sacrifice sleep and weekends, and still the number barely moves. You begin to wonder if wealth is a secret language only the lucky or the ruthless can speak. But the truth, my friend, is not that wealth is hidden. It is that most of us were never taught to see it. We were trained to live inside a story that keeps repeating itself. A story that begins with school, continues with a job, and ends with a quiet hope that someday, somehow, it will all make sense. Yet the older we grow, the more we feel a quiet dissonance between effort and reward. We work harder, but life feels tighter. We earn more, yet freedom drifts further away. This audiobook is not another promise of instant riches. It is a slow awakening, a journey from confusion to clarity, from dependence to control. It is about rebuilding your relationship with money from the ground up, starting not with your wallet but with your mind. Because before you can build wealth, you must understand what wealth truly is. Wealth is not the number on a statement. It is not the car, the house, or the watch. Wealth is the ability to choose, to wake up in the morning and decide how you will spend your time, who you will spend it with, and what you will create. True wealth is freedom, and freedom begins with knowledge. In the next 60 minutes, we will strip away the myths that keep you poor and replace them with principles that can set you free. You will learn why hard work alone has never made anyone rich, why the school system was designed to train employees, not creators, why debt, when understood correctly, can be a tool rather than a trap, and why your mind, more than any external opportunity, is the first and most powerful asset you possess. But before we move forward, let's pause and breathe. Imagine for a moment the life you desire, not the fantasy of sudden millions, but the quiet strength of financial independence. The feeling of calm that comes from knowing that your bills are paid, your future is secured, and your days are your own. That vision is not a dream, it is a design, and design begins with understanding the rules of the game you are playing. For centuries, a small group of people have understood money as a system of power, not simply as paper or numbers, but as energy that can be directed, multiplied, and controlled. The rest were taught to trade time for it. That difference between those who control money and those who chase it defines the modern world. The purpose of this audiobook is to move you from the second group to the first. You may think that sounds ambitious, but remember, every empire begins with a single decision: to stop obeying old rules and start learning new ones. You have that choice right now. The decision to listen not just with your ears, but with your entire awareness. Throughout this journey, I will ask you questions, not for answers, but for transformation. Who taught you what money means? When did you first believe that wealth was out of your reach? And most importantly, what would your life look like if you no longer feared money, but mastered it? Each chapter that follows is a key. Together they unlock a different door in the house of your financial life. Some doors open to mindset, some to action, some to mastery. And at the end, you will see that the house was never locked, only your perception was. We will begin by examining the invisible chains that bind most people, the beliefs inherited from parents, teachers, and society. You will see how phrases like money doesn't grow on trees or people are greedy shape a subconscious cage. Then we will learn how to replace those beliefs with the thinking patterns of builders, creators, and investors. Next, we will confront one of the most uncomfortable truths: the traditional school system does not exist to make you wealthy. It was designed to produce workers, disciplined, compliant, predictable. You will see why academic knowledge alone cannot open the door to financial freedom, and how to begin your real education, the education of the self. From there we move into principles, the timeless laws that govern wealth creation, the distinction between assets and liabilities, the compounding effect of consistency, the discipline of delaying gratification. These are not secrets, they are patterns observable in every story of lasting prosperity. We will then enter the paradox, the place where rules seem to contradict themselves, where the wealthy use debt strategically, where saving too much can make you poor, where the path to security begins with embracing intelligent risk. It is here that your old mental map will crumble and a new one will take shape. Finally, we will rise into empowerment. You will learn how to turn your skills, the things you already know, love, and can do, into engines of income. You will learn how to create multiple streams of money so that no single failure can drown you. And you will end this journey not merely inspired, but equipped, ready to act, to build, to evolve. But all of this begins now with one promise you make to yourself, that you will no longer be a passive observer of your financial life. You will become its architect. You will study your own patterns, your fears, your habits. You will start to see money not as an enemy, but as a mirror reflecting your mindset. Remember, money amplifies what already exists inside you. If you live in scarcity, more money will magnify your fear. If you live in purpose, more money will magnify your freedom. That is why the work begins within. As you listen, don't rush. Let the words sink into the rhythm of your breath. You are not just hearing information, you are reprogramming the language your mind uses to interpret value. Each sentence is an invitation to question, to imagine, and to act. By the end of these 60 minutes, you may not become rich overnight, but you will never think about money the same way again. You will begin to see opportunity where you once saw limitation. You will begin to sense a quiet power within you, the power of awareness, of choice, of design. So, let's begin. Close the old chapter of survival. Open the new chapter of creation. Your journey to financial freedom starts here, not with luck, not with fear, but with understanding. Welcome to How to Build Wealth from Zero. We were raised on a story that promised safety in exchange for obedience. Work hard, study hard, follow the rules. That's what they told us. And if we did, we would be rewarded with stability, comfort, and maybe one day freedom. But let's pause for a moment and look honestly around us. Do you see freedom or fatigue? Do you see wealth or worry dressed in nice clothes? Do you see success or survival with better branding? The promise was seductive. The execution was cruel. Because the truth is this: most people are not poor because they failed. They are poor because they obeyed perfectly. They followed every instruction written by a system that was never designed for them to win. From the very first classroom, we were taught to raise our hands for permission, to wait for someone else to tell us what to do. We were trained to be evaluated, graded, and compared. We were rewarded for repeating information, not for creating ideas. And then one day, that habit of waiting for approval migrated into our adult lives, into our work, our finances, our dreams. We wait for promotions. We wait for pay raises. We wait for the right time to invest, to start, to live. And life quietly passes by while we keep waiting. That is the first illusion, that obedience equals security. But security built on obedience is a leash, not a shield. It keeps you safe only as long as you stay small. The second illusion is even more dangerous, that hard work equals wealth. If effort alone created prosperity, the farmers, the nurses, the janitors, and the laborers of this world would be millionaires. But they are not, because the economy does not reward effort, it rewards leverage. Leverage means your time, your skill, or your money can multiply without you being present. The wealthy understand this instinctively. They do not measure their day by hours, but by impact. They do not chase income, they design systems. Meanwhile, most of us live trapped inside the wage illusion, the idea that money comes only through labor. We trade hours for dollars, and every month begins with the same anxiety: how long until I run out? The cycle continues, and society applauds it as a good work ethic. But a hamster wheel, no matter how fast it spins, will never become a highway. Let's be honest, we've been programmed. Programmed to consume, to compare, to compete. You graduate, get a job, buy a car, take a loan for the house, upgrade the phone, plan a vacation to escape the life you built, and call that progress. It's a beautiful cage painted gold, padded with convenience, reinforced by fear. Fear of losing status, fear of disappointing family, fear of being different. And fear, my friend, is the oldest currency of control. Governments use it, corporations use it, and the market of social validation feeds on it. When you fear falling behind, you spend to keep up. When you fear uncertainty, you cling to the paycheck. When you fear standing out, you silence your own potential. That fear is what keeps the illusion alive. You see, the modern system doesn't need you to be broke. It needs you to be busy. Busy chasing titles, busy paying interest, busy scrolling, shopping, streaming, upgrading. Because when you are busy, you don't have time to question. And when you don't question, you obey. That is not conspiracy, it is efficiency. An efficient system where consumers sustain corporations, workers sustain economies, and dreams sustain advertising. It works beautifully until someone wakes up, and that someone is you. You're here because a part of you already senses that something isn't right. That may be the equation: study plus work plus save equals freedom stopped working a long time ago. That may be the promise of retirement at 65 was a polite way of saying, keep producing until you're too tired to ask why. So let's ask why out loud. Why do so many educated people drown in debt? Why do professionals with multiple degrees still live paycheck to paycheck? Why do entrepreneurs with less schooling sometimes retire early while scholars keep grading papers for 40 years? The uncomfortable truth: education and intelligence are not the same thing. Schools teach knowledge, not wisdom. They teach formulas, not freedom. They produce workers who can calculate interest, but not citizens who understand who collects it. The system is not broken, it is perfectly designed for someone else's benefit. And once you see that, the illusion begins to crack. Here's another illusion: the illusion of ownership. You think you own your house, but stop paying taxes and see who truly does. You think you own your car, but one missed payment and it vanishes. You think you own your time, but the clock belongs to the company that buys your hours. You are not free if your survival depends on the next deposit. You are not rich if your lifestyle collapses when the paycheck stops. The rich don't measure wealth in possessions, they measure it in time. How long can I live without working? That's their definition of freedom. Most people, sadly, can't last a month. But here's the awakening: once you stop confusing income with independence, you can start building both. True wealth is built quietly, not performed loudly. It is not found in designer logos, but in invisible ownership, stocks, real estate, intellectual property, systems that keep paying you long after you stop. The people who look richest on social media are often the most leveraged by debt. The ones who look modest often own the assets everyone else rents. So ask yourself, do I want to look wealthy or be wealthy? Do I want applause today or freedom tomorrow? When you choose freedom, you begin to see money differently. You start noticing patterns. You see how money moves from the impatient to the patient, from the consumers to the creators, from the fearful to the informed. The poor think money is a destination. The rich know it's a vehicle. The poor ask, how do I earn more? The rich ask, how do I make money work for me? And this shift from earning to multiplying is the real revolution. But it requires courage, because to change your relationship with money, you must confront your relationship with fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of being different from the people you love. They will tell you that playing it safe is wise. But safety in the wrong context becomes captivity. If your safety depends on obedience, you are not safe, you are contained. Freedom demands discomfort. It demands questions. It demands that you stop being the product and start being the producer. And yes, it will shake you. It's supposed to. That's why this chapter is called Shock, because real transformation doesn't start with comfort. It starts with disruption. It starts the moment you admit that the old map leads nowhere, that the secure path everyone praises might be the same road to quiet despair. When you understand this, the anger you feel is sacred. It's not bitterness, it's energy, the raw power of awakening. Don't waste it complaining. Channel it into design. Design your own game. Study how systems work: financial, political, digital. Observe how value is created, how attention is monetized, how ideas become capital. Then ask, where can I stand in this system, not as a pawn, but as a player? That question is the doorway. You don't need to destroy the system. You need to outgrow it. You need to learn its language, then rewrite it to serve your vision. Because the system rewards those who understand it and punishes those who merely trust it. We live in a time when the tools of creation are in everyone's hands, yet most still behave like servants waiting for permission. They scroll instead of study. They consume instead of create. They rent instead of build. But the moment you stop waiting, everything changes. You can start with nothing, no capital, no connections, no permission. All you need is clarity, discipline, and the willingness to unlearn. Unlearn the myth that debt is always evil. Unlearn the belief that salary equals stability. Unlearn the habit of trading time for comfort, because the cost of comfort is freedom. So, what do you do now after this shock? You begin to look at your life as a balance sheet. What are your assets, skills, habits, relationships, ideas? What are your liabilities, distractions, debts, doubts? Then you start reallocating energy. You invest in learning. You divest from excuses. That is how the illusion collapses, not with anger, but with awareness. You will see that every rule you once believed was absolute is negotiable. You can renegotiate your value, your time, your income, your role in the economy. You can choose to stop being a worker and start being a builder. The illusion of wealth thrives on comparison. Stop comparing and it loses oxygen. It thrives on consumption. Stop buying and it starves. It thrives on ignorance. Start learning and it dies. Every step you take toward awareness weakens its hold. So let this shock settle in. Don't run from it, absorb it. Let it shake the dust off your old beliefs. Let it unsettle you enough to move. Because what feels like chaos right now is only the sound of chains breaking. The illusion of wealth is a lie told so beautifully that we mistake it for purpose. But once you see through it, you can never go back. And once you can't go back, you can finally go forward. toward the truth that wealth was never outside you. It was waiting for you to wake up. So, take a deep breath. The dream you were sold is ending, but a greater one, your own, is about to begin. Welcome to awareness. Welcome to the crack in the illusion. From this moment forward, you are no longer playing their game blindly. You are studying it, mastering it, and preparing to build your own. And that, right here, is where the real journey toward wealth begins. Now that the illusion has cracked, we begin to see what lies underneath structure. Wealth, like architecture, is never accidental. It follows principles, invisible yet constant, just as gravity pulls everything down. Those who understand these principles rise. Those who ignore them struggle against forces they cannot name. So, let us lay the foundation. 1. Wealth is not money, it is structure. Money is a symbol, a token that represents your ability to exchange value. Structure is what keeps that value flowing after you stop working. You can lose a job, a client, a market, but if the structure remains, you will recover. That structure is built from habits, systems, and assets that keep producing even in your absence. Think of it as a tree. The salary is the fruit, sweet but temporary. The asset is the root, silent but permanent. Most people spend their lives watering the fruit while the roots dry out. The principle of wealth is simple: feed the roots, and the fruit will come too. Every dollar is a soldier. The poor spend their soldiers on comfort. The rich deploy them into battlefields that return with reinforcements. Each unit of currency has potential energy. When you spend it on liabilities, it dies. When you invest it in assets, it multiplies. The game is not about how many soldiers you command, but how well you train and position them. The first discipline of wealth is allocation. Before you spend a single coin, assign it a mission. Is it to grow? To protect? To serve? Money without purpose returns to nothing. 3. Differentiate assets and liabilities. It sounds basic, yet most never practice it. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. That's it. No emotion, no status, no excuse. Your home is not necessarily an asset. Your car rarely is. A vacation is never one. Assets create cash flow, liabilities create bills. The wealthy build collections of cash-flowing machines, rental properties, dividend stocks, intellectual property, business systems. The poor collect things that rust, expire, or depreciate. Ask yourself before every purchase, will this pay me, or will I pay for it? If it pays you, buy it. If you must pay for it, wait until your assets can pay for it. 4. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Einstein allegedly said that whoever did was right, because compound interest does not care about talent, race, or luck, only discipline. It is the law of momentum applied to money. When you let your money earn money and then keep those earnings working, you shift from linear to exponential growth. 10% a year may sound small, but over decades it builds empires. The difference between the person who spends and the one who invests is not mathematics, it's patience. Understand this truth: time rewards the patient and punishes the impulsive. Every dollar you keep working is a seed planted in your future. Every dollar you waste is a harvest burned before it grows. 5. Delayed gratification is the gatekeeper of wealth. If compound interest is the engine, self-control is the fuel. You cannot build if you spend every brick you earn. Modern culture celebrates instant pleasure: the new car, the latest phone, the impulse trip that signals status but creates debt. Every purchase has two prices: the amount you pay today and the freedom you forfeit tomorrow. The wealthy practice a simple discipline: let your assets buy your luxuries. If your investments don't produce enough income to cover a pleasure, You haven't earned it yet. This rule sounds harsh, but it builds fortresses. Because luxury bought with cash flow feels different from luxury bought with credit. One liberates, the other enslaves. 6. Money management is emotion management. People don't lose money because of markets, they lose money because of emotion. Fear makes you sell too soon. Greed makes you buy too late. Discipline makes you wealthy. Track your income, expenses, assets, liabilities every month. Numbers don't lie, but they will reveal where you do. The moment you measure, you begin to master. Wealth is not built in big leaps. It is accumulated through hundreds of small, conscious decisions. How you spend a single dollar is how you spend your life. 7. Self-education outperforms formal education. Schools prepare you to earn. Self-education prepares you to own. Every book on investing, every podcast, every conversation with a mentor adds to your compound knowledge account. Ignorance is expensive. It costs you opportunities you didn't know existed. Make learning a budget line. Allocate time and money to it the way others allocate to entertainment. Because what you know determines how far your money can go. 8. Value creation precedes wealth creation. You cannot extract before you contribute. Money flows toward value like water flows downhill. If you want more money, create more value. Value means solving problems, easing pain, saving time, or inspiring emotion. Ask yourself, what can I create that helps someone else achieve a result they desire? That question is the root of every business, every fortune, every legacy. When you focus on value, money becomes a byproduct, not the goal. And because value is limitless, so is your earning potential. 9. Systems beat goal. A goal is a wish with a deadline. A system is a process that works without you. The poor set goals. I want to save $10,000. The wealthy build systems. 10% of every income automatically goes into investments. The difference is automation. When discipline is built into your environment, not your willpower, success becomes inevitable. Automate savings, automate investments, automate learning. Make wealth a behavior, not a weekly decision. 10. Protect before you grow. A castle without defense invites invasion. Likewise, wealth without protection invites loss. Insurance, emergency funds, legal structures, and diversification are not luxuries, they are shields. The goal is not to avoid risk, but to manage it intelligently. Never invest in anything you don't understand. The return you seek should match the risk. You can sleep with 11. Time is your most expensive currency. Every minute spent ignorant of these principles costs you exponentially. Because money can be regained, time cannot. That is why the rich buy time through delegation, automation, and ownership. When you trade your life for a wage, you exchange the only thing you cannot renew for the thing you can. So use money to buy back time, not just vacation days, but creative space to think and design. 12. Wealth demands integrity. Without honor, even millions turn to ashes. Integrity is not moral decoration, it is the strongest asset class on earth. It creates trust, and trust compounds faster than interest. The wealthy who endure are those whose word is capital. They can lose everything and borrow millions tomorrow because their reputation remains creditworthy. Live by the principle that profit without purpose is poverty in disguise. 13. The circle of wealth. When you build assets, they generate income. When you reinvest that income, it creates more assets. This circle is self-sustaining once it reaches critical mass. The beginning is slow, a few dollars saved, a side investment, a skill monetized after hours. But momentum grows like gravity, unseen yet unavoidable. Your task is not to be brilliant, but to be consistent. One day, you will look around and realize that your money works harder than you ever could. That day is the real definition of freedom. A pause for reflection. Let's breathe for a moment. You have just heard the laws that govern the economy of every household, every nation, every era. They are not new, they are eternal. And yet, most ignore them because they are not dramatic. They require patience, discipline, and faith in slow progress, three virtues the modern world calls boring. But remember, fireworks impress, foundations endure. Your task after this chapter is not to memorize these principles, but to embody them, to make them reflexes, to let them govern your decisions when no one is watching. Because wealth is not built in public, it is built in the quiet moments when you choose discipline over impulse. Let others show off their latest purchase. You show up with peace of mind and time to spare. That is the difference between the appearance of success and the substance of freedom. So as we close this chapter, remember these truths. Wealth is a structure, not a salary. Money is a tool, not an idol. Discipline is the bridge between dream and reality, and freedom is the return on a lifetime of principled choices. The next time you touch a dollar, see it not as paper but as potential, a seed, a soldier, a servant waiting for orders. Command it wisely, and it will build a kingdom around you. This is the foundation, and on it we will build everything that comes next. You've learned the foundations, the principles that hold every fortune together. Now we step into the shadows behind those walls, the place where the rules bend. Because in money, as in politics, the game you see is not the game being played. From childhood you were told the rules: save your money, avoid debt, work hard, play safe, retire early. They sound noble, responsible, even moral. But follow them blindly, and you will live a lifetime of effort with little ownership. Because the rich do not live by those rules, they write them. That is the paradox. The very advice that keeps the masses comfortable is the same advice that keeps them controlled. And the very behaviors society labels risky are often the ones that create true security. The paradox of saving. We were told to save. A penny saved is a penny earned. But in the modern economy, a penny saved is a penny shrinking. Inflation silently eats what discipline accumulates. Every year your money buys less, yet the banks congratulate you for being responsible. The rich save differently. They save in assets, not in cash. Their money is stored in things that grow while they sleep: real estate, equities, businesses, intellectual property. They use banks not as vaults but as pipelines, channels through which money flows toward higher yields. Saving feels safe because it is familiar. Investing feels dangerous because it is unknown. But the greater danger lies in the illusion of safety. To build wealth, you must learn to be comfortably uncomfortable too. The paradox of debt. Debt is taught as poison. Avoid it, fear it, never touch it. Yet the wealthy use debt as medicine, as leverage, as acceleration. There are two kinds of debt: bad debt, which buys consumption, and good debt, which buys production. Bad debt makes you a slave to payments. Good debt makes other people pay for your freedom. The poor borrow to appear rich, the rich borrow to become richer. They take low-interest money and place it into high-return vehicles. They use other people's money, other people's time, other people's systems: OPS to multiply results. Debt is not evil, ignorance is. Used wisely, it's a lever. Used blindly, it's a trap. Learn the difference, and you will hold a key few possess. 3. The paradox of taxes. Most people believe taxes are fixed, inevitable, moral duty. The rich see them as the largest expense they can legally minimize. Employees earn, then pay tax. Business owners earn, invest, then pay tax on what remains. The order of operations changes everything. Governments design tax codes to reward what they want more of: job creation, housing, innovation, investment. When you act like a producer, not a consumer, the law itself begins to serve you. That's why the same code that punishes a paycheck rewards a portfolio. It is not cheating, it is literacy. Learn the language of the tax system, and it becomes your ally. The paradox of risk. We're told risk is bad, but avoiding risk is the biggest risk of all, because stagnation guarantees loss. Every system from muscles to markets needs stress to grow. The wealthy don't eliminate risk, they calculate it. They diversify, insure, hedge, and always keep reserves. To the fearful, risk looks like chaos. To the trained, risk looks like opportunity priced at a discount. The same storm that sinks a small boat propels a skilled sailor forward. Courage is not recklessness, it is educated exposure. When you understand what you risk, you transform fear into foresight. The paradox of work. Hard work builds character, yes, but it rarely builds capital. The poor work in systems, the rich work on systems. When your income stops the moment you rest, you are not working smart, you are renting yourself. Real wealth comes from multiplying your effort through design, building teams, processes, and technologies that perform without constant supervision. Working hard may feed you today, building systems feeds generations. The shift from worker to architect is the true graduation. The paradox of ownership. Ownership is invisible power. Society celebrates earners, the world obeys owners. You can earn millions and still be powerless if you own nothing. You can earn modestly and still be free if you own assets that produce income. That's why employees fear layoffs, but shareholders receive dividends from the same company. That's why artists struggle while publishers profit. That's why renters worry about rent hikes while landlords sleep peacefully. Ownership converts effort into equity, time into timelessness. Until you own, you will always owe. The paradox of learning. Formal education ends, self-education compounds. The poor stop learning when they graduate, the rich graduate when they start learning. Knowledge is the only asset that appreciates as you spend it. Each idea you master multiplies every other idea you already hold. That is compound interest of the mind. If money is power, knowledge is the blueprint that directs it. Without the blueprint, more money only magnifies mistakes. The paradox of time. Time is the currency the poor overspend and the rich purchase back. The employee sells hours, the investor buys them. The rich pay others to mow the lawn, manage the books, drive the car so they can spend their limited life designing leverage. Every task you delegate moves you closer to freedom. Buying back 1 hour a day for thinking is worth more than any raise. Because ideas, not labor, are the engines of wealth. The paradox of generosity. It seems counterintuitive: give more, have more. But generosity creates networks, goodwill, and influence, the real compound interest of humanity. The wealthy understand that money is like blood, it must circulate to stay alive. The more you hoard, the more it stagnates. The more you channel it into value for others, the more it returns with interest in forms you cannot predict: opportunity, trust, reputation, grace. Giving strategically is not charity, it is investment in the ecosystem that sustains your prosperity. The paradox of freedom. Most chase freedom through accumulation. Yet true freedom begins not with owning everything, but with needing less. Wealth without inner peace is just a louder form of poverty. When you are enslaved by possessions, even abundance becomes a burden. The rich who endure measure success in choices, not in things. They spend their days doing what matters with people they respect in places they love. Freedom is not the absence of work, it is the presence of purpose. 11. The hidden rule: money follows design. Everything you have heard so far points here. Money is not chaotic, it is obedient to design. If you design systems that attract, multiply, and protect value, money flows to you as naturally as water flows to the sea. If you design chaos, money leaks. That is why some people seem lucky. Their design aligns with economic gravity. Luck is simply preparation meeting opportunity in a structure ready to receive it. So, design your financial architecture. Decide what you build: cash-flowing assets, learning loops, legacy structures. Then let every dollar, every habit, every connection serve that design. 12. The moral paradox: the media love to say, money corrupts. But poverty corrupts faster. It breeds dependency, fear, and silence. Money itself is neutral. It simply amplifies who you already are. If you are selfish, it magnifies greed. If you are purposeful, it magnifies impact. Therefore, chasing wealth is not shameful, it is responsible. Because when good people are poor, power concentrates in the hands of the indifferent. The world needs wealthy souls with conscience more than ever. 13. From obedience to mastery: you began this journey as a participant in someone else's game. Now you stand at the table, seeing the cards. You can keep playing by the house rules, or you can build your own casino. That is not rebellion, that is evolution. Because once you learn the hidden rules, you no longer fear the game. You use it, you shape it, you teach it. A moment of reflection. Let's breathe. You have now crossed from the visible world of money, the coins, the salaries, the budgets, into the invisible world of power, design, and choice. Remember, the paradox is not meant to confuse you, but to awaken you. The rules are not fixed. They are flexible for those who understand them. And here lies the final insight of this chapter: money rewards awareness. The more awake you become, the more clearly you see where others sleepwalk. And awareness, when combined with discipline, becomes destiny. So, step forward. You now know what most will never learn: that the rich play by different rules because they understand the game. The question is no longer why them, but when will I start playing consciously? From this moment, you are no longer surviving the system. You are studying it, bending it, and designing your own. This is the paradox of money: when you stop obeying it, it begins to serve you. You've seen how the system works, its illusions, its rules, its paradoxes. Now comes the turning point, the moment when knowledge becomes power and power becomes creation. Because the greatest asset you will ever own is not in your bank account, it is in you. Every person alive carries a set of invisible tools, skills, experiences, curiosities, ways of seeing the world that no one else can duplicate. Yet most people never recognize their value. They trade these gifts for a paycheck, believing they are small. But your skills are not small, they are seeds of wealth, waiting to be planted in the right soil. Your skills are capital. Money is not the starting point, value is. And value begins when you solve a problem. Every time you help someone move closer to what they want, faster, easier, better, you create value. And where value flows, money follows. Ask yourself, what do I do naturally that others find difficult? What have I learned the hard way that could save someone else time, pain, or confusion? The answers to those questions are the blueprint of your first enterprise. When you start seeing your ability as capital, the world shifts. You stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an investor of talent too. The marketplace has changed. In the industrial age, wealth came from owning factories. In the information age, wealth comes from owning attention and solving problems. The internet has removed the gatekeepers. Today, your laptop is a printing press, your voice is a brand, your knowledge is a product. The tragedy is that many still behave like workers waiting for permission when permission has already been granted by technology itself. You don't need capital to begin, you need clarity, courage, and connection. You can teach online, design, write, advise, build, coach, or curate. There are billions of people connected to the same network, each with a need you can serve. The modern marketplace is not crowded, it's fragmented, and in fragments, niches are born. Your uniqueness is not a limitation, it is a market position. 3. Package your skill. Raw talent is potential energy. It needs a container, a form that others can recognize, trust, and purchase. Packaging means transforming your ability into a product, service, or experience. If you can write, sell ebooks, newsletters, or scripts. If you can speak, create courses or workshops. If you can design, offer templates or branding systems. If you can organize, become a consultant who brings order to chaos. Clarity sells. Confusion repels. When people understand what you offer and what result it gives them, they will pay not for your time, but for their transformation. So define it simply. I help achieve by. That one sentence turns a hobby into a business. 4. Develop mastery. You cannot sell mediocrity in a world overflowing with choice. To rise above the noise, your work must speak excellence. Mastery is not perfection, it is depth. It is doing the ordinary with extraordinary consistency. Invest in yourself relentlessly. Read, practice, repeat. Train with mentors who stretch you beyond comfort. Every hour you improve your craft increases the price you can command tomorrow. Remember, you are not competing with others, you are competing with your own potential. The more skillful you become, the less you chase clients, the more they chase you. 5. Build your personal brand. In the age of noise, attention is currency. If people don't know you exist, your skill might as well be silent gold buried underground. Building a brand doesn't mean shouting, it means showing up with clarity and authenticity. Share your process, your story, your lessons. Let people see not just what you sell, but what you stand for. Trust is built when you teach before you sell. When you give value freely, people listen. When you speak truth consistently, people believe. And belief converts faster than any marketing tactic. Your name can become a signal of quality, a shortcut for trust. That's the invisible brand premium, the reason people choose you even at a higher price. 6. Create multiple monetization paths. Once your skill has shape and trust, multiply its forms. One skill can create many streams. Service, directly offering your time. Product, turning knowledge into digital goods. License, letting others pay to use your work. Audience, monetizing through sponsorships or advertising. The secret is to start with one, master it, automate it, then expand. Each stream becomes a gear in your financial engine. Together they create momentum that runs even when you rest. 7. Systemize and scale. If you are the only person who can deliver your value, you own a job, not a business. True empowerment is scaling yourself through systems. Document your process. Automate repetitive tasks. Train others to replicate your results. When your knowledge can be transferred, your impact multiplies. When your process works without you, your time becomes abundant. That is how one freelancer becomes a founder, one consultant becomes a company. 8. Resilience and rejection. You will face doubt, criticism, and rejection. It's part of the path. Every no is data. Every failure is feedback. The difference between those who quit and those who succeed is not talent, it's tolerance for discomfort and delay. Resilience is a muscle. You build it by standing back up one more time than you fall. Let adversity refine you, not define you. Each scar becomes a story, and each story attracts those you're meant to serve. 9. The economics of self-belief. The market pays you exactly what you believe you're worth, and not a cent more. If you undervalue yourself, you train others to do the same. Raise your internal valuation, and your external price will follow. Confidence is not arrogance, it's evidence of preparation. When you know your value through mastery and impact, you speak with authority. And authority is what clients, investors, and partners are truly buying. 10. Your skill as legacy. When you turn your skills into a system and your system into assets, you are no longer working for survival, you are building legacy. You create something that outlives your hours. A book, a course, a company, a movement, each is a vessel carrying your mind into the future. Wealth is not what you leave behind, it is who you become while creating it. When you empower yourself, you empower everyone who witnesses your journey. 11. A new identity. The day you stop calling yourself an employee and start calling yourself a creator, everything shifts. You stop waiting. You start building. You stop asking, "Can I?" and begin asking, "How can I?" The world doesn't reward those who wait for opportunity, it rewards those who create it. That's why empowerment is not a feeling, it's a decision. You decide that your future will be built, not inherited. That your time will serve your vision, not someone else's. That decision changes everything. 12. Empowerment through service. There is a deeper truth. Power without service corrodes. Your skills are meant to uplift, not dominate. When you build wealth by helping others win, your success becomes sustainable. Because service aligns you with the very flow of life. Value given, value returned. Every transaction becomes an act of contribution. Every sale becomes a moment of mutual benefit. When your mission grows larger than your ego, you unlock a form of wealth that numbers can't measure. Influence, gratitude, peace. 13. The cycle of empowerment. Skill, right arrow value, right arrow income, right arrow freedom, right arrow growth, right arrow service, right arrow legacy. That is the true wealth cycle. It begins within you and expands outward. It starts when you dare to believe that what you know, what you can do, what you have lived matters. You don't need permission to begin. You only need to begin, and permission will follow. Closing reflection. Take a breath. Look at your hands, what they've built, what they can still build. Look at your mind, what it knows, what can yet learn. These are the factories of the new age. No machines, no bosses, no borders, just ideas, skill, and connection. From this moment, you are no longer defined by what you earn, but by what you create. You are not a position in a company, you are a producer in the grand economy of humanity. Your skills are waiting. The world is waiting. Now act. Turn your ability into value, your value into income, and your income into freedom. Because when you do, you don't just make money, you make meaning. And that, above all, is the richest form of wealth. Money is a game most people play without ever reading the rule book. They enter the arena blindfolded, armed with slogans like "work hard" or "be grateful," while others, those who know the rules, move silently, shifting the board beneath their feet. And then, when the game ends, the blindfolded call it unfair. It is not unfair, it is structured. The difference between those who struggle and those who succeed is not luck, not intelligence, but literacy, the literacy of money. You were taught to read books, not balance sheets. You were taught to write essays, not equity agreements. You learned the formula for the area of a trapezoid, but no one taught you how to calculate return on investment. The paradox is clear. Our education system trains people to work for money, but not to understand it. So let us study the real subject that was never offered in school, Money 101. Rule 1. Money is a game of flows. Most people think money is a thing, a pile to guard, a treasure to keep. The rich know it's a flow, an energy that moves, multiplies, and rewards motion. When you hoard money, it decays through inflation and opportunity cost. When you direct it, it grows. The rich design systems where money flows through them, not to them. They are not lakes, they are rivers. Money passes through their hands into assets that yield more money, and like a current, it always returns. If your money stops moving, your wealth starts dying too. Rule 2. Money rewards control, not labor. The worker earns by effort. The owner earns by control of systems, capital, and decisions. The modern economy no longer rewards sweat, it rewards strategy. Your body has limits, leverage does not. That is why two people can work equally hard. One remains exhausted, the other becomes free. One trades time, the other commands time. The rule is simple: don't chase money, chase control over how money moves. 3. Rule 3. Debt is a tool, not a trap. Debt is neither good nor bad. It is a tool, like fire. Fire can cook your food or burn your home. Debt can build empires or destroy lives. When you borrow to consume, you serve debt. When you borrow to produce, debt serves you. The wealthy borrow at low cost to acquire high-yielding assets. They understand interest not as burden but as leverage. They know how to use other people's money, not to spend, but to scale. If you master this rule, the bank becomes your partner, not your master. 4. Rule 4. Taxes are incentives in disguise. The tax system is not punishment, it's programming. It tells you what the government wants you to do. When you earn as an employee, you pay tax first. When you earn as an investor, you pay tax last, after your money has multiplied. The order of operations defines destiny. The rich study the tax code not to cheat, but to collaborate with the incentives built into it. They ask what behavior is rewarded, and then they behave accordingly. They invest, build, donate, and hire, all tax-favored actions. Understand this: the game is not rigged against you, it is waiting for you to learn the language. 5. Rule 5. Inflation is the hidden tax. Governments print money, savers pay the price. Every new dollar created steals a fraction of the old dollar's value. If you hold cash, you lose quietly. If you hold assets, you ride the wave. That's why the rich are asset-heavy and cash-light. They don't store money, they store ownership. When the printing press runs, their assets inflate, not deflate. Inflation punishes passivity and rewards participation. 6. Rule 6. Value is subjective, but wealth is measurable. Money itself has no meaning. Its worth lies in perception, the collective agreement of human desire. That's why an artist can sell a painting for millions while a teacher earns barely enough to live. Value is not about effort, it's about impact and perception. If you want to earn more, you must learn to position yourself where your work matters more to those who can pay. Perceived value is the most powerful multiplier in the economy. Learn to communicate impact, and your income will rise faster than your workload. 7. Rule 7. The market is a mirror. The market doesn't care about your feelings. It reflects your decisions. It rewards clarity and punishes confusion. If your product, service, or presence solves real problems, the market applauds you with money. If not, it ignores you, not because it's cruel, but because it's neutral. This is liberating once you accept it, because then you stop taking failure personally and start treating it as data. Wealth builders don't cry when the market slaps them. They listen, adjust, and try again. 8. Rule 8. Attention is the new currency in the old world. Capital was physical factories, land, machines. In the New World, attention is capital. Those who command it can print money without permission. Those who ignore it remain invisible, no matter how good they are. Influence is not manipulation, it's communication at scale. When you hold attention ethically, you hold opportunity perpetually. That's why today, your personal brand may be more valuable than your degree. Because in a noisy world, trust is the rarest asset of all 9. Rule 9. Liquidity equals freedom. Assets without liquidity are cages of gold. You must design your wealth to move when you move. Diversify, yes, but also stay agile. Cash flow is oxygen. Without it, even rich people suffocate. Freedom means the ability to pivot, adapt, and seize opportunity when it appears. If all your wealth is locked, your freedom is an illusion. 10. Rule 10. Knowledge is the ultimate asset. All assets can be lost, except what's stored in your mind. Skills, understanding, and adaptability outlive every recession. The more you know, the faster you rebuild. That's why billionaires can lose everything and recover in years. They own the blueprint, not just the building. Knowledge is wealth that travels light. Carry it everywhere. 11. Rule 11. Rules are flexible for those who understand them. Here lies the paradox of mastery. Once you fully understand the rules, you begin to see where they bend. You learn when to follow and when to innovate. You realize laws were written for order, not for limitation. The wealthy do not break rules recklessly. They rewrite them intelligently through innovation, negotiation, and creation. Uber did not break transportation laws. It redefined transportation. Airbnb did not break housing laws. It reimagined hospitality. The future belongs to those who see rules as starting points, not prisons. 12. Rule 12. The real game is ownership of rules. The highest level of wealth is not owning assets, it's owning the rule book. Banks lend your money at interest and pay you a fraction back because they own the rule. Corporations set prices, laws, and standards because they own the infrastructure. Governments control currencies because they own the printing press. If you want true power, climb one level higher in the game. Own the system that defines how others play. That is where influence becomes legacy. 13. From student to strategist, you've now learned what the classroom never taught you. You've stepped from ignorance to insight, from emotion to design. Now comes the choice. Will you continue playing reactively, or will you play strategically? The student waits for instructions. The strategist writes them. Money is not moral or immoral, it is a mirror of decisions. It bends toward those who know what they're doing. So, learn the rules deeply until they become instinct. Then, when the time is right, break them creatively. That is how evolution happens in life, in art, in wealth. Final reflection. Breathe. You are no longer in the audience, you are on the stage. You understand now that the economy is not a mystery, it is a language, and you have learned its alphabet. Every rule of money is a doorway. Most people stand before it, waiting for permission. But you have the key, so walk through. And when you do, remember this: the master doesn't play by different rules. The master understands why the rules exist, and therefore knows when to transcend them. That is how wealth becomes art. That is how life becomes freedom. You have learned the rules. Now, go and write your own. Look around you. Millions wake up every morning to the same alarm, take the same route, sit in the same chair, and call it life. They are not lazy, they are trapped. They run faster every year, yet the finish line never comes closer. That is the rat race, an endless loop of effort without expansion, of activity without evolution. It's not a moral failure, it's a design. The economy rewards productivity, not freedom. The system needs runners to keep the wheel spinning. But the wheel was never built to lead anywhere, only to keep motion alive. And here's the harsh truth: if you trade hours for money, you will always run out of hours before you reach wealth one. The hourglass illusion: most people sell the only asset they can never replace: time. They pour their life, grain by grain, through the narrow neck of a paycheck. They hope that if they give enough of it away, one day they'll earn it back through retirement. But time doesn't compound the way money does. It only depletes. You can invest money and multiply it. You can only spend time and lose it. So the first step to freedom is to stop selling what is finite and start owning what is infinite: systems, ideas, assets. Every hour you sell is gone forever. Every system you build buys hours back too. From labor to leverage, the rich understand a principle that the average worker never questions: leverage builds wealth. Labor maintains survival. Leverage means multiplying your impact beyond your effort. It can come from capital, code, or collaboration. Money works when you invest it. Technology works when you automate it. People work when you lead them with vision. A person who earns from leverage doesn't wake up to work. They wake up to manage momentum. That is the subtle line between being busy and being wealthy. 3. The myth of hard work is honorable, but it is not scalable. No matter how early you wake or how late you sleep, there are only 24 hours in your day. The wealthy do not win because they work harder. They win because their effort echoes. They create outputs that repeat, a course that sells 1,000 times, a product that renews itself, an investment that pays while they rest. Each echo buys them more time, and time, once free, becomes the true currency of wealth. 4. Build assets that outlive you. You escape the rat race the moment your assets earn while you sleep. That could be rental property, intellectual property, digital products, dividend portfolios, or automated businesses. The form doesn't matter, the function does. Does it generate income without your daily presence? When the answer becomes yes, your calendar stops being a prison and becomes a canvas. You start designing life, not scheduling it. This shift is not overnight, it's architectural. You lay one brick of independence each day, one book read, one habit refined, one system built. And one day the wall of dependence collapses quietly behind you. 5. The price of freedom is discipline. Freedom is expensive, not in money but in mindset. It requires doing today what most postpone forever. While others spend to impress, you invest to escape. While they seek comfort, you seek capacity. Freedom demands delayed gratification, trading immediate pleasure for future peace. It asks for consistency in the invisible work no one praises: saving, building, automating, learning. And when that discipline compounds, it buys you something priceless. Choice 6. Redefine security. Many stay in the race because they confuse security with certainty. A paycheck feels certain, ownership feels unpredictable. But security is not about knowing tomorrow's number, it's about controlling tomorrow's source. The employee depends on the employer's decision. The creator depends on the system they've designed. One loses security the day the company closes. The other gains it with every new customer served. The illusion of a safe job has broken repeatedly in every crisis. Real safety comes from self-reliance, from knowing that if everything collapses, you still own the skills and systems to rebuild. 7. Money vests, meaning. The rat race is fueled by confusion between money and meaning. You're told to chase titles, salaries, and symbols and call it success. But after every promotion, the emptiness returns disguised as ambition. When money becomes the master, work loses its soul. When money becomes the servant, work becomes art. Freedom is not the absence of effort, it is the alignment of effort with purpose. When what you do adds meaning to others and momentum to yourself, the race dissolves into a journey. 8. Create streams, not chains. One income is one chain. 2 are two links loosened. 5 are wings. Diversify not because you're greedy, but because you're wise. If one stream dries up, others keep flowing. A job is a stream. A business is a stream. Investments, royalties, digital product, and intellectual property, each adds a current to the river of freedom. The goal is not more work, it's more flow. You escape the race not by running faster, but by opening more exits. 9. The resistance within. Even after you know the path, your mind will fight you. It will whisper, be practical. It will crave the comfort of predictability. That is not fear of failure, it is fear of freedom. Because freedom destroys excuses. It exposes your power, and with power comes responsibility. So your first battle is internal. Replace the language of limitation, I can't, I'm not ready, with questions of design, how can I? What must I learn? Every time you ask how, you move from emotion to engineering. 10. The math of escape. Let's make it simple. Calculate your monthly living cost, call it X. Now ask, what assets or systems can generate X without my labor? Maybe it's rental income. Maybe it's a digital course. Maybe it's dividends from investments. Maybe it's a business that runs with automation. Your first milestone is not millions, it's enough passive income to pay X. At that point, you are no longer in the rat race. You may still choose to work, but you no longer have to. That choice is the definition of freedom. 11. The silent revolution. The new revolution is not political, it's personal. It's millions of individuals quietly reclaiming control over their time. A designer in Nairobi selling globally. A teacher in Manila earning from online courses. A coder in Sao Paulo freelancing for 10 countries. Technology has flattened the hierarchy. The gatekeepers are gone. The new aristocracy is built on creativity, not credentials. You don't need permission, only participation. Every skill can be monetized, every voice can find its audience. The playing field is wide open for those who dare to step on it. 12. The emotion of enough. You cannot escape the rat race if you carry it inside your mind. If greed drives you, you'll simply build a bigger wheel. Freedom begins the moment you define enough. Enough money to live, enough time to love, enough peace to think. Without that boundary, ambition becomes addiction. The world doesn't need another millionaire burning out for validation. It needs creators alive with purpose. So as you build your assets, build your awareness. Wealth without wisdom is just a faster treadmill. 13. The day you wake up free, it doesn't happen with fireworks. It happens quietly. One morning you open your laptop, and your income arrived overnight. You realize you can take a walk instead of a commute. You choose projects, not obligations. You work because you want to, not because you must. That day, the sound you hear isn't applause, it's silence. And in that silence you feel power. Because silence means time, and time means life reclaimed. That is the true graduation from survival to sovereignty. Closing reflection. Take a long breath. You've walked from illusion to insight, from obedience to ownership. You now understand that freedom is not found in escaping work, but in escaping dependence. The rat race is not a place, it's a pattern of thinking, of spending, of fearing, and patterns can be rewritten. Start small, automate your savings, create one product, one service, one investment. Each step buys back a fragment of your life. Piece by piece, the cage opens. When your money begins to work for you, you stop running and start directing traffic. You become the still point in a spinning world. That stillness is not laziness, it is mastery. It is the moment when life shifts from chasing to choosing. You have escaped, not by quitting your job, but by quitting your submission. Because in the end, freedom was never a destination. It was a design built one choice, one habit, one brave step at a time. And now, my friend, you are no longer the runner. You are the architect of the track. Welcome to freedom. The journey is almost complete. You've seen illusions shattered, rules revealed, power reclaimed. You've learned that wealth was never about money, it was about mastery. Not mastery over markets or others, but over the self. Now, this final chapter is not about doing more. It's about becoming more. Because the highest stage of wealth is evolution, when the builder becomes the teacher, when prosperity becomes purpose one. From awakening to becoming, awakening opens the eyes, evolution opens the soul. Awakening says, I see the system. Evolution whispers, now transcend it. The purpose of all that you've learned, the mindset, the principles, the paradoxes, is not to make you superior, but sovereign. To stand in the same world, yet move through it differently. You were once the worker, now you are the designer. You were once a consumer of meaning, now you create it. That shift, invisible to others, irreversible within, is evolution too. The new definition of wealth, let's redefine the word that started it all. Wealth is not the car in your garage, but the calm in your chest. It's not your net worth, it's your network of impact. It's measured not in currency, but in capacity, the ability to think, to create, to give, and to choose. True wealth is peace with options. It's time with purpose. It's influence used with integrity. Money is only the shadow cast by that light. 3. The spiritual economy, every economy mirrors the consciousness that built it. An economy of fear breeds competition. An economy of wisdom breeds collaboration. When people evolve, markets evolve. When you evolve, your circle, your work, your influence all begin to change orbit. You no longer chase wealth, you conduct it. Like a current, you begin to see that abundance was never scarce, it was merely unawakened in others, so you become a conductor of awakening. That is your next mission, to elevate the economy of minds. 4. The 3 levels of power. There are 3 levels of power in the human journey. First, the power to survive, to meet needs, to pay bills, to stay safe. Most live here, it's necessary but not destiny. Second, the power to succeed, to create leverage, assets, freedom. This is where ambition is rewarded but still self-centered. Third, the power to serve, to use freedom to lift others, to build structures that outlast your name. Here wealth turns into wisdom, and the individual becomes an instrument of evolution. Your task now is to climb from level 2 to 3, from success to significance. 5. Legacy as living energy. Legacy is not something you leave behind when you die. It is something you live every day. It's in the knowledge you share, the systems you build, the lives you touch. It's every person who becomes freer because you existed. Legacy is momentum. It means your work continues moving long after you stop pushing. So design your life like a relay race, not a sprint to exhaustion, but a handoff of wisdom. Because evolution multiplies through connection. 6. Money as mirror. At this stage, you will see money differently. It reflects your state of being. When you live in scarcity, it hides. When you live in service, it circulates. Money amplifies your awareness. It flows toward clarity, away from confusion. It obeys purpose the way rivers obey gravity. So if you want more wealth, expand the purpose it serves. Give it a mission larger than comfort, something worthy of circulation. That is how money becomes sacred, not shallow. 7. The death of comparison. Evolution ends the addiction to comparison. You no longer measure yourself against others, you measure yourself against potential. Someone else's abundance doesn't diminish yours, it confirms that abundance exists. Their success is proof, not threat. In the old race, comparison created envy. In the new evolution, comparison creates inspiration. When the tide of consciousness rises, all ships rise. 8. The courage to teach. The next step of evolution is expression. What you've learned must be shared, not to boast, but to build. When you teach, you integrate. When you give, you grow. Every story you tell of struggle turned strength becomes a lighthouse for someone still lost at sea. Do not wait until you are ready. The world doesn't need your perfection, it needs your participation. Share your blueprint, your failures, your breakthroughs. Every teacher is still a student. Every student is a potential teacher. That is how humanity evolves. 9. Leadership as service. True leadership is invisible. It doesn't shout, it shapes. It doesn't command, it connects. As you rise, remember wealth gives you a microphone. Use it to elevate, not to echo vanity. Power without compassion is tyranny. Power with compassion is transformation. Let your enterprise be a sanctuary for growth. Let your influence awaken integrity wherever it lands. The greatest entrepreneurs are not merchants of money, they are architects of meaning. 10. The new evolutionary archetype. The world no longer needs more billionaires, it needs builders of balance. People who blend reason with empathy, efficiency with ethics, profit with purpose. The next stage of capitalism is consciousness. The next stage of leadership is legacy. The next stage of you is evolution, a synthesis of intellect and intuition, of creation and compassion. You are not here to escape the system, you are here to upgrade it. Your wealth is the test case for a wiser world. 11. Time, the final dividend. When you evolve, the greatest return you receive is time, but not time to consume, time to be, time to think, time to feel, time to design, to walk slowly, to listen deeply. The richest person in any room is the one who isn't rushing. Because rushing is the residue of scarcity, stillness is the signature of mastery. You will know you have evolved when you can sit in silence and feel no urgency, only gratitude. 12. Gratitude as gravity. Gratitude is the gravity that keeps abundance in orbit. Without it, wealth drifts into arrogance. With it, it stays anchored in grace. Gratitude transforms ownership into stewardship. It turns mine into ours. It turns accumulation into appreciation. Each morning you wake free, whisper thanks, not to some distant deity, but to the chain of choices that brought you here. Gratitude completes the equation of wealth. 13. The call to evolution. So now we arrive, the call you've been preparing to hear since the first chapter. This is not a call to hustle harder. It's a call to rise higher, to move from fear to faith, from reaction to creation, from competition to contribution, to live as proof that prosperity and peace can coexist. Evolution is not an event, it's a decision repeated daily, to see beyond scarcity, to act from wisdom, to design from love. Every time you choose awareness over autopilot, generosity over greed, curiosity over comfort, you evolve, and each personal evolution lifts the collective. You become a node in the network of awakening, the quiet revolution that rebuilds the world, not with slogans, but with systems of compassion. 14. The final vision. Imagine a world where wealth is measured by wisdom, where children are taught how to think, not what to fear, where education produces creators, not employees, where technology expands empathy instead of ego. That world begins not with governments or markets, but with minds like yours, minds that refuse to play small. Evolution doesn't wait for permission. It begins when one person dares to think differently, and others follow the light. That person is you. 15. The moment of still power. Close your eyes. Feel your breath, the oldest currency of life. Inhale gratitude. Exhale limitation. You are no longer the same person who started this journey. You have built from zero not just wealth, but awareness. You have learned the rules, seen the paradox, created systems, earned freedom, and now you are ready to lead. This is not the end of the audiobook. It is the beginning of your authorship. You are not just building wealth. You are building civilization, one awakened decision at a time. Final words. So, rise gently, walk differently, spend consciously, create courageously, teach generously, and evolve endlessly. Because when you evolve, the world follows. This, my friend, is your call to evolution. Answer it, and let your life become the proof that wealth and wisdom can finally live as one.